Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us to another webinar in this second semester. Today, I'm very excited. I'm very happy. This topic is something that actually moved me a lot, and I'm very pleased that two beautiful ladies are joining us to actually help us and help us understand. Um, so I want to introduce Tara and Leah, that they are our public health dietitians from Interior Health. So thank you so much for joining us and for teaching us a lot today. I'm glad that you're here, and please take it over.
Okay, hello. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're so glad that so many of you could be here today. So we're going to start today's session by recognizing and acknowledging the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories that we're gathered on. Leah and I are joining from Interior Health Region, and this spans the traditional territory of the Deqaldene, the Ktunaxa, the Inkaklapma, the Secwepemc, the St'át'imc, the Syilx, the Silcotin, and the Sinixt nations. So specifically, I am joining from Nelson, which is on the converging traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Sinixt, the Ktunaxa, and the Syilx people. And Leah is joining from Kelowna, which is in the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Syilx people. I always get out of breath when I do a territory acknowledgement. I'm just trying to make sure I get it right. So we are really grateful to live, learn, and collaborate and work together on these lands. And you'll see this photo is Lake Okanagan, where Leah lives. And the photo behind me is the Slocan Valley by where I live. And we also want to take a minute to recognize that this region is also home to 14 chartered Métis communities. And it's with humility that we continue to strengthen our relationships with First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people across the interior. So we have a lot to squeeze into the short time that we have together today. So we're not going to have time for a full round of introductions, but I'd like to invite you to say hello in the chat. If you're comfortable, please share your role, feel free to share where you're calling in from as well. So I'm Tara, and co-presenting with me today is Leah. We're both public health dietitians. We're also both parents of school-age children, and we both work on school nutrition for Interior Health's Healthy Eating and Food Security team. We're really grateful to have the opportunity to be here today and to share some information with you, kind of explore why it matters, how we talk about food and eating with students. So the plan for this morning will be, we're first going to do a short reflection activity, and then we're going to discuss what can be done to support students when they're accessing food in schools. And then we're going to finish the session by kind of applying some of the new knowledge to a couple of scenarios, and we'll share some resources, and hopefully we'll have time to answer any questions that you have. So we thought, that we feel it's important to sort of acknowledge your important roles. And I realize that there are people from all different backgrounds in the virtual room today, but likely you're somehow connected to school food, which is why you're here. And I think, as people working in schools, participating in delivering school meal programs, or even just in supportive roles related to school food, it's such an important role. So like, not only are you supporting children to be well nourished and ready to learn at school, but there's also this whole connection piece. You're providing a safe and welcoming environment. You're providing a place for students to make connections with other students, and also make connections with you as a trusted adult. So yeah, we just want to start off by saying, we really appreciate all that you do for the students. This is just an introductory slide to our recommended resources. So you're probably familiar with the resource on the left, the BC School Food Toolkit. The toolkit is a website filled with resources to help schools create and maintain nutritious and inclusive school food environments. The resource on the right is called Talking Tips for School Food Providers, and it was developed by Interior Health dietitians. And this resource was developed to provide sort of some additional support to school food staff to apply concepts of food neutral language. And this resource we will refer to throughout our session today. And we'll also share the links there with you at the end. Okay, so we're going to do our first activity together. We want to start off with a reflection. So I'm going to invite you to just take a minute to reflect on a childhood memory related to food or eating. So it could be a positive memory or a negative memory. Just grab sort of the first thing that comes up for you and sit with it for a minute and reflect on it. You can think about, what happened, where were you, who were you with? I'm just going to give everyone 30 seconds, a minute to think about this, and I'll invite you to share that food memory in the chat if you'd like. So I see there's a few shares in the chat. Thank you. Just going to read them out here. Someone says, or Kate says, my mom always asking if I really needed another helping of food. Janet says, a standoff between my dad and my cousin over her refusal to eat vegetables at dinner. Jessica says, baking with my grandma. She would give me the scraps of pie crust to make little tarts. Emma says, going to a friend's house where her parents would serve me white bread and margarine, things I never got in my house. Rocio says, eating sopa de letras. I don't know if I said that right. With my sister while making words. Alphabet soup. Matthew says, being encouraged to and baking with my parents. And Marilyn says, my mom's cooking and baking, versatile, delicious. Emily says, having to try to eat really slow when I was at a friend's house. I was embarrassed about how quickly I finished my dinner. My family ate really fast. Danica says, as a farmer's daughter eating with the seasons, I thought everyone ate that much squat. And Vita says, hi, I'm a physician at BC Children's and I also work with Island Health. I have 2 young girls and I'm passionate about promoting healthy eating habits. We are seeing a huge increase in chronic lifelong disease in our older population, mainly due to poor eating habits. School is a great place to start learning a positive relationship with food. I'm worried about kids and teen direct marketing of ultra processed foods. Thanks for that comment. Katie says, sitting at family dinners, being told I had to finish everything on my plate before I could leave the table. And Vita says, sorry, that was my introduction. The answer to the question. Sorry, I didn't get there. I appreciate that. I appreciate your introduction. Thank you. Oh, wow. Thanks so much, everyone, for those amazing shares. Wow, it's a lot. It's a lot to sit with. Yeah, so I guess, these examples really show how complex food and eating can be and how much power there is in sort of positive or negative experiences. Um, so yeah, positive experiences, the baking with grandma, creating letters out of your alphabet soup with sisters, things like that. They can foster feelings of curiosity, wonder. Coming together over a meal can create feelings of safety around food. And then we did also hear some negative experiences in the chat too, right? And negative experiences, on the other hand, can create feelings of anxiety, feelings of stress, things like being pressured to eat a certain food, like the vegetables on the plate. Those can create negative feelings and tend to make it hard to enjoy eating. And they are associated with a negative relationship with food. So we do this activity just to sort of frame that, like, it's important to remember that each student is arriving at their school meal program with different experiences and different memories related to food and eating. So I think, yeah, just thank you for participating in that. So we're going to move into our next session now, next section, sorry, of our workshop today, which is we're going to be sharing some best practice approaches to build a supportive food environment in schools and create a culture of care and connection. And the following short film was developed by our colleagues at Vancouver Coastal Health, and it kind of serves as a great introduction. So I'm going to play the film for you. It's about 3 minutes. Hopefully, hopefully you can hear it. Feel like I might not have clicked the share with sound. Let's see what happens. Someone let me know. Have you ever noticed how we contemplate about food? When we label foods, the unknown leads to
Tara, it's just really quiet.
good foods become a chore, and that leads a guilty pleasure. It takes the joy out of eating. But what if there's a different approach? One that sparks curiosity and enjoyment, nurturing a more positive
Tara,
relationship.
I only see you, not the video. I hear the video, but I see you.
Okay, I'm just gonna pause it there. Is anyone else can folks see the video?
Yeah, I can see the video.
Yes,
Yeah,
can see the video.
But the volume is difficult?
I might have something toggled, but keep going.
Okay.
I think the volume was a bit low. Was anybody else find that? Or was it just me?
Yeah, it was a little bit low, but then we were able to hear it better.
Okay, I did turn it up. Okay, I'll continue with the video then. Biology teaches kids that all foods have their place. And just like food isn't inherently good or bad, neither are they for what they choose to eat. Food choices are influenced by many factors, such as culture, access, cost, nutrition knowledge, and daily changes like appetite, mood, and activity levels. That's why food neutrality should be taught and modeled to students alongside nutrition education. Together, they show that healthy eating is about balance, variety, and enjoying what we eat. Embracing food neutrality in the classroom creates a space free of judgment where children can explore all foods safely. It empowers them to choose based on their curiosity, experiences, and internal cues rather than external labels or pressures. So here are 4 ways to start implementing food neutrality in the classroom. You can call foods by their names. Instead of labeling something as a treat, simply call it ice cream. You can describe foods objectively and highlight the sensory experience, their colors, shapes, smells, flavors, and textures. Instead of saying how apples are so good for you, say, I really enjoy how apples are so juicy, crisp, and sweet. While adults might decide what goes into lunch boxes, it's important to give children autonomy over what and how much they want to eat. This teaches them to trust their hunger and fullness cues and listen to their bodies. Avoid rules that create food hierarchies. Let's mix things up.
Instead of always using food as a reward, why not offer extra recess time, a chance to pick a class dance break song, or small trinkets like stickers and spelling tops? This helps break up the association between food and reward and encourages eating regulated by internal cues. Lastly, remember that children are always watching you, so let's lead by example. By demonstrating flexible eating habits and using neutral language when talking about food and bodies, you can support them in their journey of developing positive body image and enjoying a variety of foods. It takes time to implement new ways of thinking and talking about food, but we hope that this video has sparked some ideas for small steps you can take in your classroom right away.
Oh, there we go. Thanks, Tara. Okay, so yeah, that was a video on food neutrality. And so now we're going to shift and focus on a few of those main concepts that the video was describing, and just looking at things that you can do within your role in these different concepts. So the first one I'll be looking at supporting a positive relationship with food. And we'll also look at how you can avoid pressuring students around food and eating and the importance of that. And then also we'll talk about how to use food neutral language and the importance of that, and that words really do matter. So the next few slides will go into more details about these concepts. So the first way that you can support students is by helping them to develop what's called a positive relationship with food. But what does this really mean? So what we know is that it means enjoying a variety of food without fear or shame or guilt. So an example would be eating a piece of cake or your favorite dessert, and really taking the time to enjoy everything about it rather than feeling guilty while you're eating it or after you're eating it. So enjoying food for what it is. It's also listening and trusting our bodies to know how much to eat. So this means being aware of our internal hunger and fullness cues, and continuing to eat if we're still hungry, and stopping if we're full. And that we know is easier said than done. And then finally, enjoying eating with others. So this speaks to the food environment and understanding that food not only nourishes our bodies, but brings people together over a meal and supports connection. And yeah, so just understanding that it's more than nourishment for our bodies, right? And finding ways to provide that full food environment where everyone is relaxed. So the main thing to keep in mind is that our ultimate goal when it comes to a relationship with food is to develop that positive relationship. And part of this is really reflecting on yourself. So personally, in your relationship with food, what that looks like and how this may influence how you interact with students around food and eating. And, what do you bring to the table, so to speak? Meaning what experience and ideas about food and eating influence your relationship with food. And we realize this isn't an easy question, and it's really important at this time to give yourself some grace and self-compassion, because we know there has been a lot of shifts in messaging about food and nutrition and how to talk about food and nutrition and eating with students. And it's going to take some time to learn and unlearn the way that we think about food. But we do find it is it's important to understand your own experiences and biases around food and how that maybe comes out in how we speak about food and eating to students. And so that's just something that we ask to reflect on. And so one way that you can understand how to support a healthy relationship with food is understanding the roles that adults play versus students. The roles of adults versus students when it comes to food and eating. So this is also what's known as the division of responsibility. It's a well-accepted approach to support children and sets out specific roles. So for adults, the role is really to decide what foods are offered. So whether that's food coming from home in the lunch, the adult decides, what to put in the lunch for kids. This is younger kids. And then also at school, what is provided at the school meal program? So what types of foods? That's going to be the adult role. It's also the adult role to decide when and where children eat. So when is obviously the scheduling of meals, and so that's meal and snack time. And then where is where the students are eating, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's in another place in the school. Those are the adults' responsibilities. And then it's ultimately up to the students whether they decide to eat at all, and also how much to eat, and including in what order. So again, this might be a bit of a surprise to people. It is a shift in messaging, but understanding these roles will support the child to eat well, and it also helps everyone relax around food and eating and enjoying meal times. And overall, it decreases the pressure really around food and eating. So speaking of pressure, and avoiding pressure or decreasing pressure is another way that you can support students. So pressure comes in many forms. It comes in some pretty obvious forms. So when we think about pressure at meal times, we often picture obvious pressures like demanding a child to clean their plate or eating their vegetables. But pressure is much broader than that. And it includes any behavior that tries to control what or how much a child eats, rather than allowing the child to listen to their own hunger cues and fullness cues and learn that skill around, when they're feeling full to stop eating and when they're hungry to continue eating. So I just have some examples here up on the slide. The first one, it's an obvious pressure, I think, restricting certain amounts of food. So the quote there is, that's too much food for you. So saying this overrides the child's internal regulation, right? So this is setting a rule around food instead of allowing the child to listen to their own cues around eating. Another example would be punishing, shaming, or threatening. The example I have up there is Sally is eating her broccoli. Why can't you? So this is comparing children with, withholding privileges or expressing disappointment. And this can link food with shame and approval. And then some of the not so obvious ones would be reminding, rewarding, cheering on a child if they eat a certain food. So an example would be finish your salad and you'll get extra playtime. So we know that rewards and repeated prompts shift the focus away from appetite and towards earning something. So that's also pressure. And then there's also health-based pressure. So telling them how good and healthy the food is for them. So for example, healthy foods help you grow big and strong. Even positive messages can create pressure when they imply a child should eat a specific way. And so the common thread here is really control. So pressure shifts eating from the child's internal cues to the adult's expectations. So that's kind of the overall thread with pressure, common theme. Okay, and then the third concept that we wanted to introduce or focus on today is food neutral language. And this is another way to support students. Food neutral language is important because food neutrality teaches kids that foods have their place, just like food, and that food isn't inherently good or bad, and neither are they for choosing to eat. So nutritional value does not equal moral value. And taking a different approach, such as one that sparks curiosity and enjoyment and exploration of food, will help to develop a healthier relationship with food, especially we know this with younger kids, so K to kindergarten to 12 years old. We know that food exploration and introducing food in a way that sparks curiosity and enjoyment is a better approach to developing that healthy relationship with food rather than talking about nutrients and how it is linked to the body, because we know that kids under the age of 12 are really concrete thinkers. And so they will, when they hear labeling like good or bad foods or healthy or unhealthy foods, they take that to heart and think that they are also good or bad or healthy or unhealthy for eating a particular food that has a label. So how do we do this? How do we use food neutral language? And we simply call foods by their name and we describe it using descriptive words. It doesn't need to be 5 descriptive words. I don't know why I had that on there, but descriptive words in general. So color, shape, flavor, texture, smell. And this might seem really simplistic, but we know that this can help to develop, that curiosity and non-judgment around food. And some may worry that using food neutral language suggests all foods are nutritionally equal, but that is not the case. Food neutral language simply just removes that moral judgment from food choices. And as a reminder, in a school setting, it's the adults creating the meal programs that are making the decisions around what to eat. And then it's up to the child to decide what and if to eat at all. So this slide, I just have some examples of food neutral language because sometimes it can be hard to kind of understand that. So here are some examples. So instead of saying apples are so good for you, we can try this. I really enjoy how apples are so juicy, crisp, and sweet. So it's describing that apple using different descriptive words. Another example would be remember to eat your vegetables before your cookies. Instead, we could say allow children to decide, or not say, but just allowing children to decide what foods to eat and in what order. Again, that division of responsibility. Another example would be describing ice cream as a treat food. So instead of saying that, you could describe the ice cream as being cold and sweet to the taste. So those are just some examples that hopefully give you a better grasp of food neutral language. So you might be thinking that, there are some students that may need some additional guidance and, around behaviors when eating. And we know this is definitely a reality. And so we have provided some ideas here that could be helpful in a classroom. And one of them would be having clear classroom guidelines to help create a structured but relaxed environment where students feel safe and supported while eating. So an idea would be to remind students how much time they have to eat. So this could be verbally or with a visual timer to reduce rushing and anxiety around eating. It's also helpful to remind them when their next opportunity is to eat, so supporting predictability and self-regulation. We do encourage students to sit while they're eating, and I know this can be a challenge, and maybe there's a plan specific to each child around this who may have more behaviors around eating, but encouraging students to sit while eating promotes safety, focus, and a calm environment. So if possible, we do recommend that. Fostering a positive social environment. So teaching students to be respectful and curious about different foods and modeling appropriate language around food and choices. And supporting social emotional skills by teaching students how to politely refuse a food and how to share appropriately when needed. And one thing that we also have up here is consider a meal buddy system to build connection and positive eating behaviors. So it's pairing students up so that they have a buddy around a mealtime. And that could be something you could take to the classroom for trying to mitigate some behaviors around mealtime. So the overall goal, again, is structured yet relaxed eating environment where students feel safe and respected and supported. This is just a quote from Ellen Satter, who's a registered dietitian and a family therapist known for her research and expertise in eating and feeding, and particularly with children and families. So she says that the overall goal is to support children with developing a lifelong healthy relationship with food, not to get them to eat their peas for supper. So we enjoy this quote, and it kind of encompasses what we talked about today, is taking that pressure off. Okay, I'm just looking at the time. We've got some good time here. So now we're going to switch gears, and we're going to go into an activity to practice, using some of the newly learnings from today. And we're going to do an activity in breakout rooms. So what you'll do once you get into your breakout room is you'll be given common scenarios or comments that you may hear from students around food and eating. And we'll give you a few minutes to reflect as a group on the scenario. And there's a few reflection questions that Tara and I will post in the chat that we'd like you to kind of think about and to reflect on. And then we can come back after about 7 minutes to the main room again and do some debriefing. And one thing to note is that there may be scenarios that you're provided with that have no responses needed, and it's like a no comment response. And if so, if that's the case, why would you not comment? So if you do receive a scenario in that situation of not making any comment, why would you not make a comment is what we're asking there. We're going to provide a reference. So the tips for school food providers, the one that Tara introduced at one of the beginning slides, we will provide that to you as well. And that can just give you some ideas for responses. And was there anything I missed, Tara, before we move on into?
I'm going to stop sharing, and then we're going to pop into breakout rooms, and there'll be about 5 to 7 minutes. It's going to be a really quick fire discussion about the scenario you're given, and then we'll just reconvene and we'll debrief those scenarios.
Yeah. Great. Are there any other questions before we wrap up?
No question, but just a comment, and how appreciative we are for interior health. Janet and I were just in a meeting this morning with Dr. Sabet, and the resources that you provide to school and reach out in public health is greatly appreciated. So thank you.
That's great to hear, and glad to hear that you're finding the resources helpful as well. I think that's all we have then. Anything else, Tara, that missing?
I just want to say thank you to Tara and Leah. I know, it's a lot of information, and I wish I had like 3 hours because it's a lot of talking, and it's always good to learn. And I hope I can have you again. We've been chatting about maybe a second part of what it's a different scenarios and different things that probably complement these. Hopefully this can happen in a future, like it's sooner than later. But I just want to really appreciate all the time that you take and the resources and everybody who took the time today to, sorry about it, we took a little bit of extra 10 minutes, but thank you for staying with us for this long time, and we will see you for sure again very soon. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tara and Leah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.